Sports Illustrated just dropped a brand new mock draft. So, in casual fashion, I'm here to give my thoughts on it. What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video. If you guys are new, would love for you guys to do the great thing, dropping a like. Feel free to join the community. We're going to be trying to press now for that 8,500 9K and beyond. Would love for you to join me in that community. Feel free to join the other community as well on Discord. 700 plus people there. It is awesome. So feel free to check that out. Great community. Everybody loves to have fun there. And I'm going to be doing tape studies. Yes, I promised to bring them back. And there's been some stuff going on. You guys can feel free to read up about it in the community tab. But I'm back. So we're going to be getting back to that type of stuff as well. And there's a lot of big plans for the show coming in the future. So very excited for that. Feel free to check out the other show, Draft Bros, as well. Let's get right into this because I have been grinding at least 9 to 14 hours a day on just player evaluations. That sounds like an exaggeration. I can promise you it's not. My eye bags are very well earned. And so let's get right into this. Might as well make that time pay off, right? So starting off with the #1 overall pick, I'm sure these are just Super Bowl odds. So Arizona Cardinals go Caleb Williams. You know, I have a different draft order than this. And you guys can check out my mock draft that I just dropped. I do not have the Cardinals at #1 overall, which is kind of like the big thing to shake it up. Of course, we don't know what the draft order is going to be. And I'm happy that it's not Arizona at #1 because in this situation, if they can't trade out, I think that you obviously have to go with the best of the best. But it's just a really sticky situation to be in. Arizona, if they wanted to trade out of this, could be set up for generations pretty much in terms of draft capital. I think Caleb Williams is the real deal. I think that he is invaluable. I honestly would see what you can get for Kyler Murray. I know there's a ton of dead cap, but I mean, the ultimate fact is that, you know, there's probably something you can work out. Capologists always know how the hell to manipulate cap. At this point, cap doesn't exist. So we'll see what happens there. But, you know, Caleb Williams is the best player in the class. You guys can see my rankings over right below my face. And yeah, it's definitely going to be completely different from anything you see. But at the end of the day, you look back on this time of year at the big boards that we had, and, you know, similar situation. There's going to be guys who people think are guaranteed top 5 players who maybe don't end up there. It happens. Shit happens. And sometimes it's actually a good thing that we have some better players that can ascend to these type of heights. There's some awesome players in this class. I am very, very, very excited to be able to show my love for them. And we have a lot of videos coming breaking down these guys even more. But yes, I have some very hot opinions like Joe Milton being my QB2. Last year, I started out with Anthony Richardson as my QB2, and it ended up being to where he ended up at my QB2. My top 4 QBs remained that way throughout the entire year. They shifted and played some musical chairs, but ended up in the same spot. Regardless, Arizona Cardinals then going Marvin Harrison Jr., the one wide receiver in this range that I am not going to study for a long time because I really don't want to ruin the fun of all the other wide receivers who could be completely overshadowed by arguably the best wide receiver prospect of all time. Obviously the right move, especially without Nuke Hopkins there. Colts then going Olu Fashanu. I like Olu. I don't think he's that spectacular. He's a toolsy guy, and for me, I like to be able to see a tackle be able to play at a super high level early on, and he does have a very good foundation. I just don't like the fact that he can't handle powerful rushers. Those who can do speed to power, even guys in this class, I'm sure could totally handle him pretty damn well. And my big issue is that he continues getting pushed back. If you cannot maintain the position on the pocket, if the pocket's collapsing every time because, you know, I'm not going to use Myles Garrett. He's just the power rusher that comes to mind because obviously he's the epitome of power rushing. Then, let's just assume even Jadeveon Clowney, so former teammate now of Myles Garrett. I feel like that's just going to be a nightmare. If he goes up against someone who understands a little bit more technique and uses a little bit less speed to power, then he could certainly handle his own. He might be the best tackle in the class. But I don't trust him on a game-to-game, down-to-down basis for all types of edge rushers. And that, to me, is why he's still my left tackle #2, just going to be a bit more down my board overall. Because, you know, he has kind of a type. And, you know, I'm not going to BS anybody. I just, you know, similar with Charles Cross, and I like Charles Cross too. There's just some things that I have to pause a little bit. Buccaneers and going Drake May. I mean, I think Drake May is going to end up being the second quarterback taken. He's only had 1 year of starting. To be honest, Joe Milton hasn't really had very much more experience. But, Joe Milton was complete butt cheeks there in Michigan. But guys do end up having career resurgences. I think Joe Milton's going to be one of those guys. Drake May could end up absolutely whooping my ass. To be fair, he is sitting there at 22 on my board. He is a great quarterback. I just don't necessarily think he's like the greatest player of all time. His inconsistencies definitely worry me. Feel free to check out. Actually, my quarterback video was before I had my massive shift of my quarterback board. But that's why I'm giving you guys a little bit more information per quarterback at this point. I think Drake May is a good QB. I'm just a little bit worried about that consistency. And in the NFL, the games come down to a couple plays. And, if I'm worrying about consistency, not necessarily going to be super hyped about it. Atlanta Falcons taking Dallas Turner. He's my number 5 player, taken at number 5. I don't think the Falcons should be anywhere near the top 5. And I don't even like Desmond Ridder. I'm just going to be honest. I don't. I think the Falcons are going to make the playoffs. Yeah. Again, Ridder was my number 7 overall quarterback in that draft class. Have I been proven wrong? No. I still think that Brock Purdy, who I had above him, is better. I think that Bailey Zappi, in the long run, might be just as good. We're still talking about quarterback for Atlanta Falcons. So let's not get on our high horse here and talk about how they have a guaranteed signal caller. So I already have to put that out there. I think they're going to make the playoffs regardless of how I feel about their quarterback. So to have them at the number 5 spot is, in my opinion, extremely ludicrous. It just doesn't make any sense. Regardless, I don't know what they're smoking over there. I think that you could easily get to the Super Bowl in the NFC compared to the AFC. No idea why the hell the Super Bowl odds would be having the Falcons here at number 5. But Dallas Turner is an absolute freak of nature. They value guys who are above 260 pounds. Obviously, they just brought in Bud Dupree as a great example of that. They're seeming to value the larger size. I think a guy like Braylon Trice might be the better choice here because he is 6'4", 270. But Dallas Turner is a freak. He's the most versatile edge rusher I have ever seen. If he puts on 10 pounds and maintains a similar physique / build / movement ability, he might be the best edge rusher that I've seen. He is a mini version of Will Anderson. And by mini, I mean 2 pounds lighter and just a year behind, which he has this year to catch up. But he's spectacular. One of the best guys in terms of bending around the edge and being able to get that acceleration to get past the tackle. And he's unbelievable in zone coverage. I think he could be the real deal. I have him graded out as this mixture of Von Miller and Kayvon Thibodeau with better coverage ability, which would be a good addition there for Atlanta. Titans sitting here at 6. Don't think the Titans are going to be this low, which is it's so surprising. I don't understand what's up with the Super Bowl odds. But Brock Bowers, I think that the Titans, the one thing they don't really need is a tight end. Even though he's a super weapon, you can end up lining him outside. I'd take the left tackle at this point. I'd go Joe Alt. I'd say, screw it. I'm going to have Peter Skoronski and Joe Alt. Suck on these nuts. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to go after Brock Bowers, in my opinion. You just have such a loaded tight end room. With Josh Wiley as well as your tight end 3, who you guys probably aren't a big fan of, but he was one of my guys in last year's class. Commanders then going Joe Alt. I think that left tackle spot certainly does need to get some addressing at this point. Cornelius Lucas, Sadiq Charles on the interior. There's some help that needs to be done on this offensive line, which I wouldn't have said a year and a half or 2 years ago, which is very much a shame. It makes me feel like I'm talking about the Steelers all over again, where their offensive line was one of the best, and they just didn't build the foundation underneath and just kind of relied on that first line to maintain their level of play, which just doesn't happen as you get older. Patriots at number 8, and I thought I was ballsy for having them at number 9. Of course, I know they're not the ones making the draft order. I'm just criticizing the Super Bowl odds. Jared Verse definitely feels like something Bill Belichick would go after. I think that going after an offensive tackle wouldn't be a bad idea. If he wants to go after a toolsy player, Amarius Mims, who we may see in this is a live reaction, would be an excellent choice. Jared Verse is still a spectacular player. Steelers at number 9, you can go fuck yourself, but we get Emeka Ibuka, who I just watched today for the first time in all 22, and I absolutely fell in love. Yes, I've seen him by watching other players, but studied him in depth today. My God, special player. I think that he's, especially if he gets better at the nuance routes and maybe a little bit, or at least is able to demonstrate a release package a little bit better, He's in the slot most of the time. You're not going to get pressed. I think that this guy is going to soar up my board even more. I have him at 13. I very well might be moving him up into the top 10, maybe even into closer to the top 5. Really good player. I fell in love with him. You guys can go check out my wide receiver video when I end up dropping it, because I want to give a little bit better explanations, a little bit more depth during that time. Los Angeles Rams. Actually, the Steelers going after Emeka. It's a way early to go wide receiver. I feel like we are in that stage where you can get guys like Allen Robinson, Robert Woods to fill in that third spot. If Deontay Johnson's gone, absolutely. That makes sense. Obviously, this would be an upgrade regardless. I wouldn't be mad at it. I would just be like, we don't need to go after a wide receiver. Maybe we could go after a right tackle. Amarius Mims, hint, hint. But I'm not going to complain too much. Rams going Kool-Aid McKinstry is an excellent move. Obviously, after losing, the majority of anything good on your defense, not named Aaron Donald, you guys definitely need some more dudes in here. Hopefully, some of the corners and edge rushers from this past draft will end up panning out, but I am not banking on it. I think that there's some good players in there, but it's definitely not good enough to galvanize the team. The fact that they're here with the Super Bowl odds at 10 is absolutely ridiculous without Jalen Ramsey or Bobby Wagner. But then you got the Bears from Carolina getting JT Tuimalau. He is not in my top 5 edge rushers. I will be dropping that video eventually. That's also another one that I want to go into a lot more depth. I don't like JT Tuimalau personally. He might end up being past number 11 on my edge rushers. I'm just not a fan. He doesn't possess what I'm looking for at all in an edge rusher. Great size. But, you have one good game on your record, and somebody who is playing his second ever start got the best of you big time. And that's why I also love Amarius Mims. Not a big fan of JT Tuimalau. I think edge rusher is a great position to go for the Bears. I'd be going Braylon Trice, who I just think is a superior build at that 6'4", close to 270 frame. Vikings then going Kalen King. I've gone full circle on Kalen King. I used to be the guy who's against him because when I was watching JPJ, all I'd see is Kalen King getting eaten alive. Ended up watching Kalen King, ended up falling in love. That's just what happens. You get to see players like in terms of association for a hot minute, and you build your opinions, but it just shows you that, one, I want to show you guys I'm always going to be honest with you. Like, I didn't like what I saw from Kalen King based on what I saw when I wasn't watching Joey Porter Jr., but when you really look at the nuances of his game, just like when you really get to dig deep into a player, some of these guys do not have a great highlight reel. Some of these guys have a great highlight reel. And it doesn't really matter. What really matters is the consistency. Because if you have a great highlight reel, but you're getting burned 3/4 of the time, you're just not going to end up being a great NFL corner. But if you're someone who's a little bit more like, hey, I get torched once out of every 6 plays by Marvin Harrison Jr., naturally you're not going to like the person because you're seeing those 1 out of 6. And then you watch the other 5 reps and you're like, wow, he only got beat on that 6th rep because Marvin Harrison did a really good move on him or something like that. Kalen King is that prime example. I think he's an excellent player. I think cornerback's a great position for the Vikings. I am not going to disagree with this whatsoever. Raiders, ending up going Mason Smith. There's no way in hell, in my opinion, Raiders should be anywhere close to 13th on the odds. Like, it really doesn't make sense. But I haven't been able to have the pleasure of watching Mason Smith yet. That's probably my last position group that I will watch. It actually might be my next position. I lied. But, he's somebody who played 1 rep last year. It's also why I'm waiting to watch Mason Smith. He played 1 rep last year. Plays edge at 300 pounds. Obviously, he's a freak of nature. I've seen his 2021 tape, but, I'm personally not somebody to go sprinting for the 2021 tape after an injury. That's just not who I am. 1, I also have a life. And, but 2, more importantly than that, I think that he's a completely different player now after an injury. I want to see who he is and not who he was literally over a year, almost like 2 years ago. So I think out of respect for you guys deserve to get the most up-to-date information there. So TBD, but I don't think D-line's a place that I would go for the Raiders. I'd probably be looking at QB at this point. I would be looking at, you might need a running back, but not going to take him this high. Definitely DB on the list, any DB. And then linebacker for sure. D-line is not a sin at all, but, Mason Smith still plays as an edge rusher, so you got to watch out in case he actually doesn't fit that mold. Green Bay Packers going J.C. Latham, that right tackle spot. I'd potentially be looking at a longer-term option at left tackle. I don't fully believe that J.C. Latham loves football. Just from watching his tape, he gives up on reps. Not a big fan of that. But there's not many superior right tackles in the class that have that frame at 335. Of course, when he was playing last year, he was in the 325 range or 320s. So we'll see if he still has the athleticism. If he's able to maintain it and build that power, then we have something that we can talk about. But he lacked a lot of power there, even at that over 320-pound frame. But he was just a really good athlete. There's a lot of potential there. He's a toolsy kid, but for me, I'm not a huge fan of taking toolsy guys in the top 15. I'll take them round 2, round 3. But, when it comes to guys like this, I'd much rather get someone who has proven production where I don't feel uncomfortable with him starting right away and being able to see the tools from there. I don't think J.C. Latham is ready yet. New York Giants then going Romo Dunze. He, I believe, is my wide receiver 10. And I still haven't fully graded the whole class. There's 50 guys who I have on my list right now, over 50. So there's a lot of dudes. But Romo Dunze, just very underwhelming. I don't think he's a great route runner. I don't think he's put everything together. I don't think Washington is good at training wide receivers. I don't think he's going to put it together until he's in the NFL. And I think that might artificially boost his rating for teams saying like, oh, we know that he hasn't reached his potential yet. But, 6'3", 211, good player. Just, good hands as well. I don't think that even though he's a great athlete, he puts it together on the field. He doesn't produce the product that you would expect from somebody of his build. I just don't think he's a great football player at the moment, but I don't think that he can't be. I think that if a team ends up taking him in the first, it's a big mistake. He's a project. I think I would be looking out for who he's going to be in 2 to 3 years. And maybe a team that isn't a 2 to 3 year rebuild is perfectly happy with that. I wouldn't be, so that's why I have him as a 4th to 5th round player. And that's not bad. Early day 3 is not bad at all. I just think that right now he's one of those players who will end up falling off because I don't see the athleticism pop off. I don't see the route running pop off. I don't see him being an absolute menace in terms of a contested catch threat. There's just a lot that I would be pressing pause on. The Bears end up taking a guard here at 16. Personally, I think that the Bears could be looking at a potential another defensive back. I know that Jalen Johnson is going to be up for a contract. This is a very solid cornerback class. You have Denzel Burke there that could end up learning similar to Tyreek Stevenson, and you can keep that DB cost low. I'd personally re-sign Jalen Johnson. But, looking at it, more defensive line help, always useful. What did the Bears get with their last pick? I'm tripping. JT Tuimoloau. So at least they've addressed the D line. I don't think they did it well, but, TBD. I think it depends if they end up keeping either of Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool, which I would personally keep Darnell Mooney. But you could be looking for another wide receiver at this point. A.D. Mitchell is a guy, if he ends up remaining healthy, could be a potential viable option here. Troy Franklin, if he ends up putting on a little bit more weight, could be a very viable option to be in a similar to Chase Claypool role. Obviously not the same weight, but you could have him play as that more boundary wide receiver who has very good hands. Cooper Beebe is not an awful pick, but I'm not getting out of bed in the morning for Cooper Beebe. Then you got the Texans going Xavier Worthy. Studied him today. I think he's just a designated deep threat. I think that when you see a guy who's 6'1", 172 pounds, you expect them to be a lot more dynamic in terms of changing direction, and he's not. And that kind of leads him to not be a great route runner, which is very unfortunate. But when it comes to deep speed, holy shit, this guy will blow past everybody. Very well might have in that low 4.3, 40-yard dash range. But when you have someone like Tank Dell on the team, I don't really think Xavier Worthy adds that much, and I wouldn't want both those guys starting at the same time. I think Tank Dell's going to end up being a perennial starter, if not potential Pro Bowler on your team. If CJ Stroud ends up being the quarterback that he should be, rather than the quarterback that I think he will be, I'm being optimistic here. And I think that there's just a lot better options than Xavier Worthy for you. You got the Denver Broncos next. They go Jerzon Newton. I love Jerzon Newton. He's a beast. I think that the fact their linebacker hasn't gone off the board, especially when you have D'Amico Ryans here, is a little bit unfortunate. But, Broncos getting some extra meat on the interior, not the worst thing. They ended up paying, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of money for a defensive interior player. That might have been the Seahawks. I'm tripping balls. But I know there's $55 million spent. Actually, Draymond Jones to the Seahawks. So you guys definitely probably could use some help on the defensive interior. Slipping me right now, but I don't think that left tackle's out of the equation. Bowles was rumored in a trade. Wide receiver, there's been a billion trade rumors as well. Could certainly look for that as a spot that they go. New Orleans Saints then going Chop. Chop is my number 7 edge rusher. Spoiler alert. I think that the issue is I don't know what Chop I'm going to get in each quarter. He definitely, unfortunately, mostly resorts to someone who doesn't use his body well. He's not even using his speed and his edge bending ability to get around guys like DeJuan Jones, who are not laterally gifted in terms of movement. And he should kick their ass. I think that going after an edge rusher with these tools is a very New Orleans Saints thing to do. And I don't think it's a bad idea. I just think that he's not necessarily going to be the product that is what we're looking for. And I think he put on some extra weight as well. And that could certainly take away from that speed advantage that he does have. But his big issue is power, and he has absolutely none of it. Adding some extra weight could certainly push him to potentially boost a category where he's really, really poor if he's able to make the proper moves to make sure that he keeps his athleticism. You could be looking at a guy who could be worth this type of pick. Seattle Seahawks then going Jeremiah Trotter. I love it. Big fan of it. I know that linebacker is going to be a position you guys are going to be looking for. Jordan Brooks hasn't been anything special. Bobby Wagner probably not going to be there forever. He's getting older and older. And then, Devin Bush is Devin Bush. Jaguars then going Michael Hall Jr., beefing up that defensive line. I think going after a potential wide receiver 2 here, or, a boundary wide receiver 2 over Zay Jones would be where I'd end up. I think Calvin Ridley is a freaking stud. The more I watch how his route running is right now, the more I think this team, I have them going toe-to-toe with the Chiefs in the AFC Championship and just missing out. Spoiler alert as well for those of you guys who have not seen my draft order. I have them much later than this. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are the team to beat in the AFC, not named the Kansas City Chiefs, especially with Calvin Ridley looking as good as he does. But I kind of want someone better than Zay Jones. There's nothing wrong with him. I just think you can upgrade. And I think A.D. Mitchell, when healthy, could be that type of guy. Or Troy Franklin, who honestly might fit even better. But Michael Hall wouldn't be a bad selection. I'm never going to complain about a team beefing up the D-line or the O-line. Maybe interior offensive line with Donovan Jackson could be a move. I'll scroll down for you guys too. But you guys could also even look at Amarius Mims. I mean, why not? I know that you already have Antoine Harrison there as well as Cam Robinson. But, I mean, at this point, you might as well take another project tackle in the first round. Who cares? Might as well. They're both amazing players. Miami Dolphins going Gadsden. Okay, so I have not had an official grade on Gadsden yet. Very excited for it. He is, I believe, a big slot. And Dolphins could definitely use someone with his movement ability. Very excited to be able to give you guys better information on him. Baltimore Ravens then going for Donovan Jackson. I don't think going O-line or D-line is a bad idea. Now, I think they should go a boundary corner. You still have Denzel Burke on the board, and Marlon Humphrey is the perfect dude to train him up. I thought they should have went after the corner that I'm tripping up from Maryland last year, who went to the Giants. I think they should have ended up going that route just so that they had a project that they're developing. But, they ended up liking Zay Flowers. They can do what they want. Detroit Lions. Look at the size difference right there. That's Leonard Taylor, isn't it? Yeah, I think D-line's a great pick for the Lions. I don't know why the hell they're sitting here in terms of Super Bowl odds. No disrespect, Lions fans. Just not going to be that supportive of a team without a true wide receiver 1 on the boundary. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. Or a true number 1 corner. And Chauncey. We don't know how long Chauncey's going to be out for, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's nothing severe, but, I'm so glad he didn't tear his ACL. knock on wood. I hope to God I'm not misquoting that, and I pray to God that I'm right, that Chauncey's not actually that hurt. Pretty sure he's not. But still, I mean, I still think that getting a boundary corner number one is, key here. Of course, I understand the fear of going after another Ohio State corner, but there's just other dudes in the class too. Leonard Taylor's going to be a great selection. I'm not going to nitpick it, but I think that maybe there's a better position, wide receiver one with A.D. Mitchell, or after a corner number one with Denzel Burke. Chargers then going Denzel Burke. Don't think that's a bad choice for them at all. They could always use some extra infusion of youth in that secondary. Personally, I'd be trying to go after maybe a safety. I know a lot of y'all love Alohi Gilman. I'm not fully there yet. I think the safety class is god tier. If you even want to get someone who might be a linebacker / safety hybrid, because you don't really need that, but Cooper DeJean, he also is a corner, but I think he should be a monster safety as well. Could end up having his range and size be a big asset there for that secondary. Then we got the Green Bay Packers going Kalen Bullock. Safety is a position they need to target. This guy's a ball hawk, would be a total fan of this one. I think that he definitely might not like the cold. Maybe I'd try to look at somebody, I just talked about him, Cooper DeJean, who's in Iowa, used to that type of climate, who has that range. I would love to see him as a safety, as a defensive back there for the Green Bay Packers. Dallas Cowboys. So they get Barrett Carter. Actually, I want to check. I forgot. Oh, they went right tackle with J.C. Latham. I just want to make sure what their other position was. Dallas Cowboys go Barrett Carter here. Getting a project linebacker is never a bad idea. I think that they could definitely use some extra oomph in that linebacking core. I don't think it's fully sold out yet, so continuing to invest in it with the guy like Barrett Carter is a great idea. I prefer Tommy Eichenberg, but after I keep wanting to say Lucas Van Ness, but you guys know who I'm talking about. Leighton Vander Esch, LVE. Maybe white linebackers isn't your thing, and that's okay. Then you got Cincinnati Bengals going Malik Neighbors. A lot of people like Malik. I personally do not. I think he's a pretty poor route runner. Uses physicality to get open, which is great until you realize OPI is a thing. And then also you should still be able to separate with routes. He's good after the catch statistically. I don't think that it translates to the NFL. I could be completely wrong, but as of right now, I was not super enthused by my study of Mr. Neighbors, my wide receiver 10. Bills then going my man Braylon Trice, top 5 or top 6 player on my board. Getting a project like him, who is 6'4", 270, and just an absolute menace, played with a club on his hand last year too, would be incredible. Having Von Miller train a guy who could use a little bit of help in terms of the intricacies of the game would be great. But I think Braylon Trice, over 30% pressure rate, should be respected a lot more, and he's just not. Eagles and going Andrew Makuba kind of feels like something that'd be set in stone. I think what's his name? Cameron Kitchens. There we go. It would be a better selection, but not going to complain about Makuba here. Then we got the Niners going Kingsley Sua-Mataea. He ended up dropping 15 pounds. My biggest issue with him was his size, or actually, excuse me, that's not true. I loved his size. Pause. But I hated the fact that he was so slow. He's just not, movement-wise, the most gifted man. So he looks a lot thinner in the face. Power to him, man. I mean, he looks like he's in really good shape. Similar to how I felt about Jordan Davis going from fat ass to actually really in shape. I'm going to give the same respect to Kingsley. I'm probably going to be moving him up the board right after this. I'm probably going to swap him literally. I might just swap the two, Graham Barton and Kingsley. Very well might push him towards Olu Fashanu, if not over. They play different positions. He's a right tackle. But the Niners going after a right tackle is an A+ move. I think Kingsley could be. If he's there, it's a home run hit, but I don't think he's going to be there. Then you got the Chiefs going Jatavian Sanders out of Texas. Very intriguing to go another tight end. Don't think it's a bad idea. Kelsey's going to be turning 35. Eventually, they got to find some replacement there. Jatavian Sanders would be a fun option. Not mistaken, he has some drop issues. When I was watching Quinn Ewers, he did drop a couple, but we'll definitely see if that is the case. That is going to be the video. Wanted to take a little bit more time to go in depth. Yeah, it's a 30-minute video, so want to make sure you guys got the most out of this, because there's still a lot of information I got to tell you guys. We're not deep into draft season to where I can just say, oh, that's a really good pick, or I would prefer this guy. We don't know yet. I mean, I'm spending all this time so I could tell you, because I love y'all. But thank you so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.